We are holding a public hearing this evening at Spooner Area High School with a recommendation to waive public instructional minutes and 2 other requirements for this 2019-2020 school year. We requested input from the public by email if interested until noon today, and we received 1 email stating that they were in support of this waiver. Are there any other public comments this evening? Are there any other public comments this evening?
This is Nathaniel. The only public comments that I've gotten is just questions about when school is going to start.
Well, this is... So that
this is not concerning that.
Nope.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. Are there any other public comments this evening? All right, then I will entertain a motion that the school board will consider a resolution to request a Department of Public Instruction waiver for hours of instruction, civics exam, and educator effectiveness requirements for the 2019-2020 school year due to the COVID-19 public health emergency.
This is Paul. I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Paul.
This is Deb. I'll second that motion.
I think I heard Deb seconded the motion. We'll take a roll call vote.
Robert Holman.
Robert
Yes.
Nathaniel Melton.
Yes.
Kate McKinney.
Yes.
Deb Olson.
Yes.
Aaron Birch.
Yes.
Marcia Schurz.
Yes.
Paul Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes. We will close out this public hearing. All right, we're going to roll right into our committee of the whole. Again, board members, we have all of our board members calling in for the public, and we will be having a roll call vote for all of our action items this evening. So I will go ahead and call the committee of whole to order. Roll call.
Robert Holman.
Here.
Nathaniel Melton.
Here.
Kate McKinney.
Here.
Deb Olson.
Here.
Aaron Birch.
Here.
Marcia Schurz.
Here.
Paul Johnson.
Here.
And I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
This is Paul. I'll make a motion. We approve the agenda as it was written.
And a second?
Kate McKinney will second.
Kate McKinney. Thank you. Move on to discussion and action. Item A is to consider the revision of policy 0156, and we will also waive the second reading.
This is Paul again. I'll make that motion. We approve it.
This is Deb. I'll second that motion.
Any discussion?
Can someone please state for the record what it is that, to summarize what it is we are revising?
This is the policy that addresses the committee of the whole. The change is to add a sentence that says the board may suspend public comments and questions. There are 2 similar items on the agenda tonight. The second one that will come up will have the same recommendation, and the purpose is the board would be unable to do virtual board meetings if that public comment piece were not changed at this time.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion?
This is Deb. I have a question. Would that only be for if we're doing virtual meetings, or can we go in and out with that public comment as needed?
The intent at this point is to go to a WebEx format for board meetings until the public health emergency is lifted. We're unable to accommodate public comments and conduct the WebEx at the same time. So in order to comply with the open meeting law, we make these changes with the intent that they'd be in the duration, for the duration of the public health emergency until face-to-face board meetings began again.
Okay, thank you.
At that time, I'm sorry, this is Paul. At that time, we'd have the ability to go back to where we were before, if that's what the board wanted to choose, correct?
That's correct.
Any more discussion? Roll call vote.
Robert Holman,
Yes.
Nathaniel Melton,
Yes.
Kate McKinney,
Yes.
Deb Olson,
Yes.
Aaron Birch,
Yes.
Marcia Shores,
Yes.
Paul Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes. We'll be moving on to item B, to consider, and I'll entertain a motion for the revision of the policy 0167.3 and waive the second reading. This again is for the regular board meetings. Same addition of suspending public comments.
This is Paul again. I'll make the motion. We approve this.
Second, Nathaniel Melton.
Any discussion?
This is Kate, and I'm just wondering if the public will have an alternative way to submit a public comment or a question that somebody else might be able to read at a board meeting, or at this time will it just be no option?
Well, we'll put some information out with this change and recommend that people would email questions to me. And in addition to that, people will be able to call in on the WebEx to listen to the board meeting. They just won't be able to make comments on it.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion? Roll call vote.
Robert Holman,
Yes.
Nathaniel Melton,
Yes.
Kate McKinney,
Yes.
Deb Olson,
Yes.
Aaron Birch,
Yes.
Marcia Shores,
Yes.
Paul Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes. We'll be moving on to item C, to consider suspending public comments at Committee of the Whole for the duration of the public health emergency. I'll entertain a motion.
Nathaniel Melton, I make that motion.
Kate McKinney, I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Robert Holman,
No.
Nathaniel Melton,
Sorry, can you repeat the motion?
So the motion is that we suspend public comments at the Committee of the Whole
Yes.
for the duration of the public health emergency.
Excuse me, let me qualify my answer. I believe, and I've thought about this over the weekend when I was given the heads up on it. If people want to email their public comments into the superintendent, then someone can read them into the record at these meetings, and I would agree to that. But to just suspend them, period, with no alternative, I will not agree to that.
So we just talked about that in the last question discussion portion, where that is going to be...
Well, with the policy, the way I understand those policy questions or votes, we're changing the policy that gives us the right to suspend, and now we're at the point where we're voting yes or no to suspend. While I agreed with the policy change, I'm not agreeing now that we're actually voting
That's
to
fine.
do this.
That's fine. You have the right to do that, Robert.
I want the alternative option, and if there isn't an alternative option, then I vote no.
That is your prerogative. We'll continue with the roll call vote.
Nathaniel Melton.
Yes.
Kate McKinney.
Yes.
Deb Olson.
Yes.
Aaron Birch.
Yes.
Marcia Schurz.
Yes.
Paul Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item D, I'll entertain a motion to consider, that we suspend public comments at the regular board meeting for the duration of this public health emergency. I'll entertain a motion.
This is Paul. I'll make that motion.
This is Marcia. I'll second.
Any discussion?
This is Paul. I'd like to open up for discussion. To clarify, the question that was asked earlier was whether or not the person has the ability to email and to go to the superintendent, I would say is a good thing. I would say that not doing public comment during this time is also a good idea, simply because we don't know who the person actually is that's making the public comment. We don't get to see the person, and they're not signing up to make the public comment. I think that in order to make a public comment, it should be there in person. It should be on the record as a public meeting. I realize that this is a time that we're having to change things, and I'm not happy that we change it either, but for the sake of keeping people healthy and our buildings safe, this is the best way to do it. And I think also the integrity of email sometimes is not always coming from the person who says that the sender supposedly was. So to be put on the public record without the person being there, I think would be going down a dangerous path. So I'm going to say yes to support this for the board.
Any other discussion? Thank you for that comment, Paul. Roll call vote.
Robert Coleman.
No, same objection.
Nathaniel Melton.
Kate, are you there?
Yes. Sorry I didn't hear. Yes, I'm a yes.
Deb Olson.
Yes.
Aaron Birch.
Yes.
Marcia Schurz.
Yes.
Paul Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes. Moving on to item E, to consider the updated employee.
Aaron, this is Deb. It's very hard to hear Caitlin calling off our names.
Okay, I'll go ahead and, is that all right? Or do you,
Maybe Caitlin calls them out and you repeat them.
sounds good. Caitlin will call them out, I will repeat them, and then you will vote.
Great, thank you.
Yep, thanks for letting us know. All right, so item E is to consider updated employee compensation plan during the public health emergency. The board was given a memo from the administration and a recommendation on how we're going to move forward in terms of hourly staff. And in that recommendation, it was that, we're going to start a rotational basis for work within the buildings as needed, and that we were asking hourly staff that they commit to at least 25% of their total hours to continue receiving their regular pay that they have been getting. We're going to take this, I think, in about 2-week increments and go forward with it with, noting if there's work to be done, et cetera. So we're going to take this out for 2 weeks and then probably come back to the Board of Education with another recommendation or the same recommendation, depending on where we are with everything, because it's so fluid at this point. Within that recommendation, it was also stated that, if an employee chooses not to report back to work for personal reasons, they'll be allowed to take sick leave, vacation leave, or personal leave. And then once that leave is exhausted, and if there's still work to be done, we would expect them to come in based off of the rotational schedule. And if they choose not to come in at that time, we would exercise our right to contest any unemployment that would be applied for. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Aaron,
Well, yes.
can you tell me that I couldn't hear that.
Nathaniel, I just summarized the memo that you guys were given earlier, or given last week, I would. So you
Okay, so that was that word for word just read for the employee pay proposal we got over board docs?
Correct.
Okay.
So I'll first entertain a motion, and then we'll open it up for discussion.
This is Paul. I make a motion that we approve the proposal.
This is Deb, I second that.
Any discussion?
This is Paul again. The question I have is that this is dealing strictly with hourly staff. Is this dealing with hourly staff that is 9-month employees, or is this would continue through the summer also? Are we looking at different people differently on this hourly staff?
Yep, so we analyze this, different for each group. So right now, it's all staff, because all staff would all hourly staff, because all hourly staff would be working at this point. With any further direction from the state in terms of ending the school year or something like that, we'll reevaluate again for those 9-month staff. Custodians, they work year-round, so they're in a different category, and we would look at them separately going forward. So we kind of, right now it's just a broad look at all staff, and again, this is so fluid that we have to continue to look at it weekly.
Thank you.
Any more discussion?
This is Kate. When I'm thinking of hourly staff, I'm thinking of, a lot of student contact time, and I'm fearful, or just maybe more curious, and wondering how much core assignment work is going to be available to our hourly staff at this point, and not knowing kind of going forward what that would look like for them. And I guess my mind is just in a place of feeling like, do we want to risk not knowing if they're going to have much to do and work on, and asking them to come into the building at this point where, they may be putting themselves at more risk of being out and about.
So there was a schedule developed last week by the building principals in regards to work being done. So they definitely have work to do for this week and next week, because we pushed that out for 2 weeks. And again, we will be looking at this on a 2-week incremental basis. So as an admin team, we'll be meeting again this week on Wednesday to go over things. We certainly wouldn't ask them to come in if there isn't anything to do. And at that point, if there isn't anything to do and we can't offer them any work, we could transition them to doing some maintenance work and cleaning work to be done in the buildings if that's available. If it's not available, that's when unemployment becomes applicable to them.
Okay, thank you, Shannon.
Yep.
This is Paul again. The question, the follow-up would be, if we did not approve this, the option then would be to simply lay them off at this point, and they would have to collect unemployment. Is that the answer? We have to either do this, or we're not going to do this.
Correct, because we would need a plan. We would need to offer them some sort of direction, so it would either be a furlough after this. We do know we have work for some of them, but it would have to go, we'd have to figure that out, figure out exactly how many staff and who would be doing it. But the other staff then would be furloughed, and it likely would go furlough on a week, furlough off a week. I mean, we haven't even looked at that, so that is just something I'm pulling off the top of my head. But if we didn't approve it, you are correct. We probably would be looking at some sort of layoff.
So we're, as a board, what we're doing here, and as a district, we're doing everything we can to keep our hourly staff employed, to keep them working, doing something that's serving the district versus in helping our local economy go on too. I mean, this is really a major loss that this whole world is going through. And I think that as long as we have something to keep people busy and we have the ability, the money is budgeted, we're doing a whole lot of people a big favor by employing people in productive hours that we wouldn't be getting otherwise. So, once again, I hope the board goes along with this.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote. Robert Holen,
Yes.
Nathaniel Melton,
Yes.
Kate McKinney,
Yes.
Deb Olson,
Yes.
Aaron Birch, yes. Marcia Schurz,
Yes.
Paul Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. We're moving on to item F, to consider the resolution on the Department of Public Instruction waiver of hours of instruction for 2019-2020. So that is what we just did in our public hearing before the Committee of the Whole.
So you have the resolution. You have the resolution in your packets. So we'd be looking for a motion for the school board to adopt this resolution.
Paul, again, I'll make that motion that we adopt this resolution.
This is Marcia. I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Now, is this something we can make action on as a committee of the whole, or do we recommend it and have it done at the regular board meeting?
Nope, you're being asked to take action on this at this time.
Any other discussion? And Robert, just so that you know, that direction was from information that I had received in a webinar from WASB, in that after our hearing, we adopt the resolution. And so that is why it's on the Committee of the Whole rather than waiting until the regular board meeting for timeliness of the action.
I'm just checking to be sure we're in compliance.
That's
Thank
fine,
you.
and I'm just letting you know why it's appearing at this
Thank you.
meeting. Yep. Any other discussion? Roll call vote. Robert Holen,
Yes.
Nathaniel Melton,
Yes.
Kate McKinney,
Yes.
Deb Olson,
Yes.
Aaron Birch, yes. Marcia Schurz,
Yes.
Paul Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll be moving on to Section 2, presentations. Item A, discuss WebEx for regular board meetings.
Mr. Miller.
Mr. Miller.
Okay, for future board meetings throughout this crisis or health emergency, what I propose to Dr. Aslan is that we take advantage of what is the Cisco WebEx conferencing platform that we receive through our distance learning service. It is a secure, reliable platform used for online video conferencing. As part of that, what I would do is work with each board member individually here prior to the next meeting to make sure that you are able to connect via that platform. We would then run the meeting remotely through that, where you would call into this platform. In addition to that, we have the ability to publish a phone number through that WebEx meeting that community could dial into to listen to the meeting. And we would also be able to record the meeting while it's going on that could be posted later for somebody to watch if they wanted to. So that would be my recommendation as far as hosting a virtual meeting in the future here until we're through this health crisis. If there are questions, I'd be happy to answer them now.
Board members, could you hear Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Is there a cost associated with this?
There's no cost. We receive this WebEx licensing, as I said, through our distance learning education program, so it's just a component that's part of that available to us to use. And now we have a need to use it, so it seems like a good time to implement it.
Thank you.
And this is Deb, is this something we can use over our Chromebooks here, or do we have to have a
Yes,
computer for that?
no, it can be used through the Chromebook. What I want to do is just verify that you will be able to connect and make a good connection, because it obviously does run through an internet connection. And if we have an issue, then we would look at how we're going to connect you and make that happen.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you for figuring out a way for us to do this and abide by the law, as well as keeping our community and staff safe. Do we need to, no action needed, it's just what's happening?
Don't need to do anything. So we will plan to implement that for the April 20th regular board meeting.
Okay. Thank you. We'll be moving on to item B, financial update. The financial update that the board was given is for February, so I'll just briefly go over it. We had a beginning balance of approximately $732,000. We took in total receipts for the month at a little over $7 million, the majority of which were tax settlements for that month. Total expenditures for the month were about $1.6 million, leaving the ending balance at $5.4 million. Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, we'll place that on file. Moving on to item C, the approval of vouchers. Were there any questions on the vouchers? Okay, do we have consensus to move that to the regular board meeting on the 20th?
Yeah.
Yes.
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 Okay, thank you. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
This is Kate, and can I just make a comment really quick before we adjourn? This is Kate.
Absolutely.
I just want to make sure that our administration and staff and teachers know how much we appreciate their hard work at this time, and there's no clear roadmap for what the work has been, and everybody has stepped up and adapted and has worked hard and has provided to our students in an unsurmountable amount of ways. And I just want to make sure everybody knows how thankful we are. And not only the amount of work that they've done, but the amount of care and love and concern that they've expressed and opportunities for our students still has been amazing. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I will second.
All right. All those in favor? Roll call vote.
Robert Holland,
Yes.
Oh, we don't need it?
Yeah, but
Sorry, Robert Holen. Robert Holen.
Yes.
Nathaniel Melton.
Yes.
Kate McKinney.
Yes.
Deb Olson.
Yes.
Erin Birch. Yes. Marcia Schurz.
Yes.
Paul Johnson.
Yes, and Aaron, thank you for sticking around a couple more months.
I would like to just say thank you very much for this opportunity to I've had to serve the Spooner School District. It has been a life-altering experience, and I'm very grateful for it. And the students and staff in Spooner are amazing and really show, I think, our community how to come together even through challenging and difficult times. And so thank you for all of your work and the people of this community. It's been a wonderful experience. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.